Hey guys, so today we have with us the Sony 35mm f1.4, one of their newest lenses and one of my favorite focal lengths. Now, I've been using the 35mm Canon back when I was still using the Canon cameras, and it was one of my favorite focal lengths, mainly because it had a very specific look that looked great in portraits, architecture, and all around daily photography. And that's because the 35mm has this natural focal distance that mimics the human eye. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but you know, wide-angle lenses have a lot of distortion, where telephoto lenses have a very zoomed and very compressed look. The 35mm on the other hand has a very natural look that mimics the human eye, and in my experience, it makes the pictures look a lot more natural and a lot more pleasing to look at. So what you're seeing now is recorded on the 35mm f1.4 lens. You can see that the background's all blurry and creamy, really nice. And the front, where it's in focus, should be really sharp. After all, this is a prime lens and it should be a lot sharper than the zoom lenses. Now, the construction of the lens feels really well built. Its size feels just right in your hands, and it has a really balanced weight that doesn't throw off your wrist during long shoots. So this lens is weather sealed. It has a autofocus, manual focus toggle switch on the side, and has an adjustable aperture ring that oddly doesn't lock in place, so you have to be extra careful whenever you're taking it out of your bag. Just gotta check your settings once more before you shoot. Now, that being said, this aperture ring has a click on and off mode, which means you can either have the aperture ring going in steps, or you can have it moving smoothly through the different ranges. However, you still have to go through the aperture increments of f1.4, f1.6, f2, f2.8, and so on. The lens weighs in at 524 grams and has a dimension of 76 by 96 millimeters. This keeps it fairly compact as compared to the other 35mm f1.4 lenses out there. What I really love about the 35mm lenses is not just the natural looking focal distance, but also the sharpness you get when you use a prime lens. Zoom lenses usually have more glass, more moving parts to have that variable focal length, whereas prime lenses have a fixed focal length and requires less mechanisms and typically gives you better optics through the glass. Zoom lenses also tend to be more prone to distortion and chromatic aberrations, especially towards the wider and tighter ends of the lens. So the disadvantage of using prime lenses are that you are stuck with a fixed focal length. Yes, you can change out with other lenses, but that usually takes more time and trouble than if you were using zoom lenses. This is where the 35mm stands out. Although it is classified as a wide-angle lens, I feel it has the right focal length to capture almost anything pretty well. It's usually my go-to lens if I want beautiful pictures and if I'm out with friends and want to have a light and compact setup. It encourages me more to bring it out and thus get more pictures out of it. The wide open aperture at 1.4 gives you that smooth, creamy bokeh. At night, it lets you get that few more stops of light that could change how your photo turns out. Yes, prime lenses are limiting, but if you know what you'll be photographing, then it's not such a big deal. The one problem with Sony lenses is of course the price. Now, I'm not saying that Sony prices are absurd or unreasonable, but more and more third-party brands such as Tamron and Sigma are developing similar lenses at a fraction of the cost. They might be made out of plastic and they might not have optical image stabilizing, but it's scary how close they are to achieving the same, if not better results than the Sony lenses. Now, lastly, it is also important for you guys to try out these lenses before investing a large amount of money on it. That's why this lens is a rental from Camera Rental Center. It's a great way to give it a trial before committing. Even if you don't intend to buy it, you could always rent it for certain days when you want to use it and not be burdened by the cost of buying a $2,000 lens. But that's all I have to say about this lens. If you guys found this interesting, do give it a like, share this with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.